Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to another episode of our entitled People, where in today's episode, you'll hear a story about an insane parent who harasses a 5-year-old in an ice cream parlor. Guys, the stories in this episode are absolutely outrageous, so make sure your socks are snug because they might get blown off. But before we get into the stories today, take a look at this, guys. So this is a text message that a bride sent to her bridal party. Hey girls, I have something I need to run by y'all. So, Mater didn't have cancer when I invited her to be my bridesmaid, but now I'm having second thoughts about her being in the wedding. Like, she mentioned the other day that her hair has started to fall out a bit, and I noticed that she was looking thinner than normal. Like, I just can't envision having all of you beautiful ladies up there, with me looking fabulous, and then Mater with no hair. Like, I just feel like it'll distract from me and Scott, and I just feel like it won't fit with the look I'm going for. Do you think I could ask her to wear a wig, or should I tell her that I don't think she should be a bridesmaid anymore? Help. LOL. So the bride sounds like a terrible, selfish person, and I really do hope her bridesmaid stepped up and told her what a crappy person she is. Like, I get it, okay? It's your wedding day, you want everything to be beautiful, etc. But imagine finding out that one of your bridesmaids, who I'd assume is someone who's close with you, has cancer, and then doing something like this. And the fact that she basically called Mater ugly now for losing hair and looking thin, that's absolutely outrageous, guys. Like, wow. Okay guys, so if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear the stories in this one. I hope you enjoy them, and do hit that subscribe button if you aren't subscribed already. So, my sister and her husband flew up to visit the family in Canada to introduce their baby daughter to everybody over the Easter weekend. It wasn't a long visit, and they went to the airport this morning to check in for their flight. My train back to my apartment didn't leave for another 3 hours, so I tagged along to help with stroller and bags. Basically, I was having an extra pair of hands so they could focus more on the baby instead of trying to juggle bags and everything. So we're standing in line as there was an issue at the check-in kiosk, and I feel my small rolling luggage bag get extremely heavy all of a sudden, to the point where it almost yanks right out of my grip. I turn around and there's a girl, anywhere between 7 to 10 years old, sitting on my bag. So I said, "Oh, hey, excuse me, but can you please get off my bag?" So at this point, the mom chimes in and says, "Her feet hurt. She needs to sit down." Her child then bounced in place and actually yanked the bag handle out of my grip, causing both it and the kid to fall to the ground. The mom gets furious at me for letting her kid fall. Now, it's barely 6:30 a.m. at this point, and I had zero patience for this stupidity. So I just pick up my bag, held my bag in my hand, so her daughter couldn't sit on it. My niece starts getting fussy, as young babies do, and my brother-in-law jogs off to go grab a bottle of water to make her a bottle. They thought they would be through security at this point, so they weren't prepared to make a bottle. No big deal. I tell my sister to take care of her baby, and I'll manage the bags. But behind me, the little girl was just getting started. She says, "Mommy, my feet hurt, and I want to sit down on her bag again." The mom tells her, "Hang on, sweetie." Now, my sister was adjusting her baby in the stroller in an attempt to calm her down, but from behind her, it looked like she was taking the baby out. The mom then says, "Look, she's taking the baby out of the stroller. You might be able to sit there if you ask." Now, my sister hears this, and she just about loses her mind. My sister says, no, she can't sit here." The mom then says, "You're taking the kid out. My daughter can sit there, can she not?" Sister then replies, "No, I'm not taking my kid out, and no, she can't. She's a grown child. She can stand like the rest of us." So the mom replies, "Her feet hurt. If you can just take your kid out for a few minutes." Now at this point, my sister gets a look on her face that I know all too well. It pretty much promises that she's gonna mess up your day. My sister then looks at me and says, "OP, can you please take Maddie out of the stroller? Jeff should be here with the water for her bottle in a minute." Now, I get confused, but I do trust her and take the baby out of the stroller. So the mom gets a look of absolute triumph on her face, only for it to drop off her face as my sister then grabs the weekend bag and the diaper bag and puts them right where the baby was sitting. She then looks at the woman and says, "Like I said, your child is grown. She can stand. My child is 9 weeks old. She can barely hold her head up on her own. You need to get some sense in your head." At this point in time, a check-in attendant noticed my sister's situation with the baby, who was still fussing, and pulled her to the front of the line to get her through. Brother-in-law reappears right after that to help sort out the bags while I feed the baby. I look for the mom and the kid, and she was on the ground throwing a massive temper tantrum. Worse than any tantrum I've seen in children half her age. The mom looked at me with a sour expression on her face. Guys, I absolutely love how OP's sister handled the situation. I'm sorry, ma'am, but my bag's feet hurt too. I'm sorry your little goblin can't sit here. But anyways, I don't get the deal though. What the heck is wrong with sitting on the floor? Does that make too much sense for an entitled person, or is sitting on the floor too good for her daughter? Guys, so the next story is absolutely insane, and it's the one you're here for. So apologies for the length, but I'm too livid to write concisely. My granddaughter's dog died yesterday, and she's been absolutely devastated. All of her siblings were devastated, but she's taking it even harder than her siblings because she wasn't home when he passed, and she's the only one who didn't get to say a proper goodbye. So I promised I'd take her out for ice cream today to get her mind off things. So we get there, and it's just after dinner. Plus, there was a baseball team, so it was a long line. We did what normal people did, and we waited in line. The person behind me had a daughter a few years older than my granddaughter. My granddaughter is 5 years old, and her daughter looked to be about 9 or 10. The girl was playing a game with music on her phone full volume to the extent that I could barely carry on a conversation with my own granddaughter. The store also had the radio on, so it was contrasting sounds. Now, it was irritating, but I didn't feel like making a scene. So about 5 minutes pass, and we're towards the middle of the line now. The woman behind me, kids still blasting their game, taps me on the shoulder and asked if she can cut in front of me in line because her daughter has to pee, so they need to get out of there. I kindly inform her that the parlor has a bathroom and point to the clearly marked bathroom that's literally directly adjacent to us. The woman says she doesn't want to lose her place in line. Now, I do want to note again that her daughter is at least 9 years old, so why would they both need to leave the line? And she then asks the person in front of me if she can cut them. The person in front of me says, "What? Sorry, I can't hear you over your daughter's phone." Now, that was satisfying. I had hoped that that would be the end of them, and I want to note that the girl never even went to the bathroom. So 5 more minutes of blaring the game music, and finally we reached the front. My granddaughter asked for a scoop of pistachio and a scoop of Rocky Road. She asked for them in 2 separate cups because she doesn't like it when the flavors melt together. The boy behind the counter, who couldn't be a day over 16 years old and running this entire place by himself, says, I think we're out of Rocky Road, but we'll have more in 15 or 20 minutes. Actually, wait, I think there's just enough left for 1 scoop. Now, we're both relieved because Rocky Road is her favorite flavor, and her mom wouldn't love me keeping her out an extra 15 or 20 minutes on a school night. Now, at this point, the woman literally steps around me and shouts at the clerk, "Actually, she'll have 2 scoops of strawberry, and quickly." There's quite a line. Thinking she's talking about her own daughter still, I explain that we aren't finished ordering yet. She motions to my granddaughter and says, No, she'll have 2 scoops of strawberry, and my daughter will have the Rocky Road on a waffle cone. Thanks." Now, I'm absolutely baffled as to what's gone on, and sharply cut her off and say, "There will be more in 20 minutes. Please don't engage with us again." I then hand the clerk the money and find seats for my granddaughter and I. The woman and her kid are making a big screaming scene, asking why we got some and they didn't. Now remember, there's gonna be a fresh batch in under 20 minutes. So we sit down as far away from them as possible and start to exchange stories about her dog and talking about all the ways we'll keep him alive in our memory. We talk about what kind of dog she and her siblings will look for at the pound, and what kind of dog her previous dog would want her to bring home. The woman and her daughter finally realize that no amount of screaming would make the ice cream arrive faster, so they sit down across the way, and the mother kept giving us dirty looks. Thankfully, my granddaughter did not notice. Now, suddenly I actually have to pee. I'm on a medication that makes it difficult to hold it, so when I have to go, I really don't have a choice. I told her to stay right here, and ran up and went to the bathroom. I wasn't even gone for 3 minutes when I hear screaming. I rush out just in time to see the entitled mom sliding back into her booth, and her daughter smirking. Now I can see that my granddaughter is on the floor on her knees in tears. The woman had come up to her and knocked her ice cream onto the floor. My poor granddaughter is squeezing the melting floor ice cream in her fist and looks absolutely heartbroken as she explains what the woman did to her after I got up. What was supposed to be a fun night to get her mind off being sad has now become a catastrophic and traumatic experience. I go out and confront the mother, remembering that the goal is not to get a justice high, but to avoid further traumatizing my granddaughter. As I'm opening my mouth to speak, the woman gives me the ugliest grin and says in a mocking tone, "There will be more in 20 minutes. Please don't engage with us again." Now at this point, the clerk comes over to see why my granddaughter is sobbing in an ice cream puddle on the floor. I explain what happened, and the woman denies it. Several people vouch for my granddaughter's account of things. They thought it was an accident on the mom's part, so they didn't see the need to get involved, but only just realized that it was intentional, and were now loudly protesting to the clerk, adding that the noise from the game was driving them insane. The clerk sternly tells the mother that he had asked her already to turn the sound off on the game, and he couldn't have them harassing patrons, so she'd need to silence it and order something or stop taking up the booth. Now I wish we could have left at this point, but we had to wait longer for Rocky Road now. She whined and said that they were still waiting for Rocky Road to come out, and he said, "You can pay for it now if you want to stay," and turn the game to silent. The mother goes on and on about how she's just a kid and she's trying to have a good time, and the game isn't the same without sound. So a customer chimes in and said that headphones do exist and that she should let her child wear headphones. The mom then says, "She can't wear those. It's not good for her hearing to have sound beamed directly into her ears." So at this point, the clerk told her that this is her final warning before he had to call someone, so she silenced the game. And then her entitled child starts smashing her fist into the table, creating a bunch of noise as loud and as pulsating as the game. Her mother tried to reassure her that they'd have the ice cream soon, and the girl throws a fork across the room, beaming an infant in a carrier directly in the head. The mother of the infant screams, and the infant is crying and shrieking. She carries him out, and the father goes to complain to the clerk, who tells Karen in no uncertain terms that they need to leave. Now remember, he's just a teenager. I don't think he's ever needed to throw a mother and a child out before, because he was practically shaking. The woman then makes a fuss and says that she's gonna leave a bad Yelp review with his name on it, and she knows everyone in this town, and no one will ever be back once word of her mistreatment gets around. The clerk just kept saying, "Please leave, ma'am. Ma'am, please leave. Now, ma'am." On the way out, her daughter tried to slap people's ice creams onto the floor. Ducky see, ducky do, but thankfully her arms were too short and she missed a lot of them. When they were gone, the clerk brings my granddaughter the biggest ice cream sundae she's ever seen in her life, with Rocky Road, chocolate, and s'mores ice cream on a brownie bed, topped with marshmallows and fudge. We left a generous tip, and my granddaughter made no secret of her glee. But here's where it gets really insane. So, we go out to the car, and I spot Karen and her kids standing outside. I asked the clerk to stay with my granddaughter while I pull my car up to the front. It turns out that that was the right move. As soon as she sees me, she starts screaming at me saying, "My daughter did not get to have any ice cream because of you. Are you happy now? You deprived a young girl of ice cream. You and your wicked granddaughter are nothing but selfish pieces of garbage. Oh, and I overheard about your dead dog too. Good. Serves you right." Yep, I was glad I left her in the store. So I threw it in park and told my granddaughter to cover her ears because we're playing a game. I led her to the back seat singing Baby Shark, her favorite song, as loud as I could to drown out the taunting by the Karen. She was targeting my 5-year-old granddaughter directly at this point, saying, "Thanks to you, my daughter might never be able to have ice cream again. Do you feel good?" Like, it was really demented stuff. It made me glad that I didn't get into a back and forth with her, as she really didn't seem to be playing with a full deck. And her poor kid was just crying at this point. No wonder. Once I shut her in her side of the car, I pumped up the radio and kept it up until we were at earshot. When I got far enough out of the parking lot, I told my granddaughter that she could take her hands off her ears because she'd won the game, and we sang Baby Shark all the way home, and I don't think she has any idea of what went on. All I care about is that she was in heaven all night and didn't even mention the tense altercation when she got home. All she could think to talk about was her big sundae. My friends, what a crazy, crazy story. I hope that woman was banned from that place forever. Like, way to set an example for your kid, Karen. She took a moment where she could have easily used to teach her daughter patience, but instead, she became a great role model by showing her daughter that it's okay to throw a tantrum when you don't get what you want, and then slapping an ice cream out of a 5-year-old's hands. Oh, and don't even get me started on her bringing in that she overheard about the dog dying. Like, talk about cheap shots. Way to go, Mom. You win the Mom of the Year award. And thanks for creating more entitled brats. As for Grandma, the way she handled that situation was absolutely beautiful. So, a little backstory. My dad has an older sister who we'll call entitled aunt, and she always, even as a child, was treated like an angel, and my dad was treated like a piece of crap. For example, when my dad was in college, he wore a lot of hand-me-downs that had holes in it, and the tradition in China is that you get a lot of clothes in the new year. His mom told him that they were going to get him a brand new coat for the winter, and my dad was really excited. So, a few days before New Year's though, his parents said that they can't get him a coat. The coat that they were gonna get him cost about 1,000 yuan, which is 143 bucks. But can you guess where that money went? The money went to my aunt's friggin' boyfriend. How can you treat your son like that? And here's something worse, the coat that they gave the boyfriend was 2,000 yuan. Like, you could have just split the dang money so they could both have new coats. The second my dad was out of college, he started to work really hard and was able to give his parents money every year, even when they treated him like that. So, you get the gist. My dad treats his parents really well, and all that effort equals nothing, or it goes straight to the aunt. Now, for some reason, they hated my dad, my mom, me, and my siblings. This happened a few years ago when my mom was giving birth to my brother. I didn't realize how bad this story was until a few years ago because I didn't understand. So, I was born in Beijing. My mom was somehow able to foresee that the housing prices were gonna go up there, so she and my dad worked hard to buy as many houses as they could. However, there's a limit to how many houses you can buy in Beijing, but my mom was able to find a loophole. She bought the house with her own money and put the house under someone else's name. She bought a house and put the house under my dad's mom's name. My mom paid for all the renovations, which is important later. So fast forward about 4 years, my mom was pregnant with my brother. There's a law in China that says not to have more than one baby, so they came to the US to legally have a baby. And this is when entitled aunt saw her chance. She took advantage of my parents' absence to manipulate my grandparents, telling them to put the house my mom bought 4 years ago under her husband. Now obviously my grandparents caved in really easily, and they transferred it. Luckily, my mom's brother was able to find out that they transferred it. Now, we were still in the US, so we weren't able to deal with this immediately. My parents called their lawyers to have a court summons for the entitled aunt. She took her time and waited for the last warning to finally come into court. She brought my grandparents along too. Now, according to my uncle, she was smirking the entire time waiting for the trial to begin, thinking that our side of the court can't really prove it, while low-key insulting our side of the family. Now, I don't know how to translate this, but she said things like, "My brother was always naughty. Probably also passed it down to his children too." Or, "My brother was such a coward that he didn't even want to come because he knew that I'd win." So then came the sweet revenge. The court first asked my entitled aunt to talk. She said that the house was bought by my grandmother and was then given to her husband, obviously with no proof. Then, my uncle with the lawyers took out a record, clearly stating that my mother had purchased this house with her own money. Now, I wish I could have seen my entitled aunt's face, but my uncle described it as a dark green and maybe purple too. The judge then asked entitled aunt if this was true. The judge stated that if she were to lie, then she would end up with much worse than just giving the house back. Now, surprisingly, she stood her ground and claimed that the house was indeed her husband's, who got the house from grandmother and paid for the renovations. And that's where she messed up. My uncle and the lawyers triumphantly took out another paper saying that my mother paid for all of the renovations, clearly not my aunt's husband. And that's when she broke down and she cried. She starts crying, screaming in undecipherable language. She was soon taken to jail for 1 or 2 years. I forgot, but holy crap did she deserve it. Guys, it's no surprise. Some family members can be the worst people ever. I hope that aunt enjoyed prison because that's what scummy people deserve. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our / entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today, and thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. And Steve-O appreciates the support as well. I'll make sure to give him some food and water, guys, don't worry. And if you missed the last episode of our / entitled people, I will link it right here. Karen's son breaks into OP's home, and Karen gets mad at her, and then threatens to sue. It's such a crazy story, so check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you, and Steve-O loves you too.
Are you sure about that?